right, I am pleased to welcome up our amazing panel, where you have a panel that's focused on this idea of 1,000 true fans and how big followers aren't necessarily where the trend is going nowadays. It's focused on more niche audiences, which might be a hot take for a lot of people. But we're going to hear from an amazing panel of creators and platform leaders who are going to be talking about this very topic. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Olivia Owens from Teachable, Jayde Powell, a brilliant creator, Hannah Doyle from the Published Press, and Colin Rocker at CareerColin on Instagram. Welcome, everybody. All right, everybody. You guys can all hear me? Feeling good? Yeah. All right, so I want to start off with well, first, maybe you guys want to introduce yourselves, and let's go down the line, starting at the very end. Mr. Colin Rocker, give an introduction on yourself for the wonderful crowd that we have here today.
Can you hear me? Is this coming out all right?
Yeah.
So, hi, everyone. I'll be brief. My name is Colin Rocker, and I give career advice on the internet, and I'm excited to be here, based in New York City. Talking everything small audiences.
Woo! Welcome, Colin.
My name is Hannah Doyle. I write a newsletter called The Published Press.
Woo!
It's by creators for creators, and it comes out 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. ThePublishedPress.com. Subscribe right now to read tomorrow morning's issue.
All right. Do we have any Published Press subscribers here? All right. We have any future Published Press subscribers here?
Yes.
All hands. Jayde.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jayde Powell. I am a social strategist and the host of Creator Tea Talk, which is a series of events and brands that hosts conversations about the creator economy and fosters transparent relationships between creators and influencers and marketers.
Amazing. Welcome, Jayde. And last but certainly not least, Olivia. Oh, you introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming out. My name is Olivia Owens, and I lead creator partnerships and business development at Teachable. Teachable is where seasoned creators build their legacy through education. So you can monetize through courses, coaching, digital downloads, all things education.
Amazing. Big round of applause for our panel here. All right, and all panelists, again, you got hold it up tight. I know you got lip gloss on, it doesn't matter. Get it on there.
It's Fenty.
It's expensive lip gloss. What's the brand?
Fenty Beauty.
Oh, Fenty Beauty. Fenty Beauty, use her discount code.
I didn't mean that.
Use her affiliate link. All right, this is a little round robin question, but as we're talking about this element of true fans to an extent, would you rather have 100,000 followers with 1% engagement or 10,000 followers with 10% engagement? Colin, you want to kick us off down there?
Sure.
Oh, and why? Definitely curious why.
So I would say, as someone who's had both, I think both are valuable. But I will say higher engagement allows to deeper conversations. But as a creator, one of the names of the game is growth. And so you need to be making those investments to grow your platform. But I would think of that 100,000 as 10 groups of 10,000 in that way. And so you want to be making sure, how can you have 10 different conversations with that audience? And so you're creating small audiences inside of your larger total audience.
Super interesting. Hannah, thoughts?
Yes. For my math, that's 1,000 people. Both are 1,000 people.
Well done. Well done.
But it is higher engagement with the smaller 10,000 person crowd. And to me, I would rather build from that because I think word of mouth is so powerful, and people that are really invested in something can't help but share about it. And at least from my experience, the brands I love. So to me, it would be 10,000 fans.
Okay, we love that.
Yeah,
Jayde.
I agree with Hannah. I would rather have 10,000 followers. I feel like if we really think about what 100,000 followers looks like in real life, that's a lot of people staring at you. It's a little intense. So I think having 10,000 followers breeds more of a deeply engaged community where they may know you a little bit more intimately comparison to 100,000.
All right, we love it. And Olivia?
Yeah, I'm going higher engagement. I think especially in a world where we're kind of at the whims of the algorithm, making sure you have the most engaged audience and also then figuring out how to get them off of the platform so you're not at the whim of the algorithms is the way to go. I think reach is always amazing, but owning your audience, getting direct to them is the key for creators today.
All right, we got a range of takes here. So I want to just talk about like the state of the industry right now. So like the internet and social media has enabled people to really reach millions of people, right? Find their communities to an extent. But here we are at South by Southwest talking about smaller audiences. And so like what key shift have you each observed from your unique vantage points about how creators and the industry in general are thinking about audience building over the past few years? If Olivia, you want to take us down.
Yeah, I think an interesting thing that we're seeing, especially on the influencer marketing side of things, is brands want to work with creators who can actually get direct to an audience to make them take an action. So it's not about just seeing the content, it's about then clicking the link, going to engage with whatever they're pointing them to. So I think as brands go more towards the micro, nano influencers to engage with their content, the value of that type of creator has gone up. And it's also opened more doors for creators to get into the game, because not everybody's going to reach the 1 million follower mark, but that doesn't mean there's not value that you can add or value that can be gained from entering this industry. So I think more and more as we open barriers of entry into this space, the spectrum of types of creators all bring value in different ways.
Yeah, I feel like what we're kind of witnessing now in real time at this event is we're seeing this shift from URL to IRL. In-person events are becoming so much more important now, because now we're moving away from this place where, even I would say at the start of the pandemic, where you kind of had to build community online. So now we're like, okay, so what do these people actually feel like in real life, or who are they? And you kind of want to have that connection that's in person rather than just through your phone or computer screen.
All right, I love that. Hannah, what about you? What are we seeing? You're reporting on the industry. You do a lot reporting on YouTube. So I'm just curious what you're seeing with this shift, if there is this smaller audience focus.
Yeah, how I see it is kind of represented, like everything is becoming more fractured, and I see it taking a similar shape to kind of how news was back in the day. You know, everyone was like local papers, and you know, people got their news directly from their radio stations and local news versus kind of the big tent pole like CBS, NBC. I think we had that state of the creator economy where it was really large, and there were a lot of big channels that we were getting our mass information from. Now it's becoming more fractured, and I think the like world is better for it, the audience is better for it, because everyone is finding kind of their own specific creators to be getting their news and information from.
I love that answer. Yeah. Colin, take us home.
I think as a creator, community is king. And so like Jayde said, you have to go from URL to IRL, I think, to be truly successful. And you can do that with a large or small audience. But I do think Jayde's been a great leader. You've done a number of in-person activations, some in partnership with amazing brands. I'm a career-focused creator. And so I'm building a series of in-person networking meetup events live in New York City, which have been incredibly successful. And so I think as any creator, whether that's digital or physical, find some way, like Olivia says, to bring those people off platform to have a deeper, more meaningful conversation with them.
I love that. So Hannah, you talk about this fragmentation comment, and I'm curious, like we're actually seeing some of the platforms push towards more private-based communities, like Instagram for sure makes sending content in the group chats really easy. They have the broadcast channels. YouTube even, I guess, with the community channel element. Like, do you think this is empowering creators in their communities, or is it fragmenting attention in unhelpful ways?
You know, I see fragmentation as a good thing. Well, talking personally as someone who writes a newsletter, it's like, I know people aren't only reading the published press. I know they're also reading Passionfruit. I know they're also reading Creator Economy NYC.
Thank you.
Which I love. And so, you know, I don't need to monopolize their diet. I just need 5 minutes a day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if I can have that relationship with them, I'm happy. So I think fragmentation can be a good thing in that way.
Okay, interesting. Any other takes there in terms of fragmentation?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to speak more so to the exclusivity of it all. I think we have to remember in social, we're talking about people, and there's always going to be this, not to say that's a bad thing, but I think capitalizing on the fear of missing out is an opportunity for brands, to be honest, because having access to this exclusivity or VIP experience is something that a lot of us want, especially those in our community. And I feel like a brand being able to position themselves in a way that says like, hey, you are like a member of our community, but our deepest and most loyal fans get access to these perks, puts them in a unique position to kind of bring in new community in that way, simply because of the fear of missing out.
Yeah, I see it as an opportunity to add value to your most loyal friends and go deeper with the people who want to go deeper, right? Like there are some people who purely want that 5 minutes with Hannah and the published press. There are some who want to go deeper, longer format with the creators and dig in. Or if it's an education creator, you can only get so much content into a newsletter or into a TikTok. For the ones who want to go deeper, they will pay you for it, which is what we see at Teachable so much. I remember when I first joined the team, there were these creators that were making multi-six figures, but didn't have massive audiences on social. And I was like, how is this possible? But it's because they understand that there's that core component of your broader audience that's waiting for you to give them the next thing that they could pay for. And I think especially in a world where historically, your audience felt some type of way about you making money and thought it was like you scamming them. I think today your fans want to see you win. They want to see you monetize. They want to be a part of that success and play a role in it. So your ability to fragment and find those people who want to go deeper and want to pay you for that is the biggest opportunity.
That's a banger. All right, great answers there. Colin. So I know Colin from New York City. By the way, we got anyone from New York City here?
Any New Yorkers in the house, make some noise!
We gotta get the horns. So, Colin, you have this saying that you've said on past panels that we've been on of like, reach is the new resume. But I'm curious how your perspective of audience success has actually evolved as you've grown as a creator, with this element of like, oh, great, the follower count is growing, reach is great, but like, are you thinking about this element of like, damn, maybe I do need to really like refine in terms of like, who are my core people? Like, who are those people that are gonna be buying something from me when I put, a $75 product in front of them?
Yeah, I think when I had 0 followers, I wanted 100. When I had 100, I wanted 1,000. When I had 10,000, I wanted 100,000. But ever since, as I've gotten larger, I've had to actually think and say, like, why am I just chasing carrots? And what goals are my actual goals as a creator? And that's where the community came from. That's where the focus on going to events and helping people grow their own platforms have come from. And really, that's where that phrase, reaches the new resume, has come from. Because I think as a working professional, and we all are, including myself, I think you can have an audience of a couple hundred or a couple thousand, and that can lead to so many opportunities in your own professional space or extraneous to your professional career in terms of speaking, in terms of mentorship and coaching, side income, side businesses. And so I think as a creator, I answer the question with like, what are my actual goals? Because your goal as a creator can't just be to create like a larger following. It's very empty. But I think as a professional, that's where sort of that reaches new resume sort of comes from, because it can lead to incredible professional opportunities.
I love that. Jayde, do you have any thoughts from that as well as you're thinking about follower growth?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Colin. I think follower growth was something initially that was a priority for me. And I think over time, I realized I didn't really necessarily want a lot of followers. What I want was a deeply engaged community, because that, I feel, is the value in reaching my goals, which is to monetize and scale my business and grow my brand. And I feel like I can't do that without having the right community in place. So I don't necessarily want 100,000 people following me. One, because I don't want people in my business, but also because I feel like it's not necessary for me to have that. So I feel like as I grow my brand, my focus is really like, who are the people in my community that will actually gain value from my content?
I love that. Yeah, I was talking to someone who was saying that like, if you're a creator and you have like 100,000 followers, some of them are actually struggling to find brand deals more so than someone with that 10,000, because the brand sees that person with 10,000 either has that 10% engagement rate, and that they have a more niche audience versus this person with 100,000. And it certainly depends on like the brand's deal, the brand's goals and stuff. But Olivia, from a brand partnership standpoint, let's say you're trying to find partners to talk about Teachable. What are you looking at, and do you think about that element of like the large follower count versus the small follower count and all that?
I think it goes back to the fact that on both sides of the coin, diversification is key, right? Like as a brand, from an awareness perspective, yes, you want as much reach as possible, but you also want people who are going to take the action. So getting those creators who maybe are smaller, but they have the exact target audience that you're looking to reach, and the way they engage gets them to take action, you want those people as well. And then I think as a creator for yourself, you want brand deals as a monetization strategy, but you also want ways where you're making money direct to your customers. You want to be doing partnerships and strategic things. So at the end of the day, I think across the board, it's about diversification. It's not just one thing that's right, but I do think more and more we see brand deals continue to be the main way creators are making money, but I think it's going to be mission critical that you're diversifying.
I love that. Hannah, any thoughts on that as well from like the end of the creators that you're seeing in terms of them being able to pull in certain brand deals or monetize pretty heavily from even smaller types of followers or subscriber counts?
Yeah, 100%. Just from the smaller creators versus the larger creators, like I remember one article we ran with like Steezy Kane. He said like the worst thing was to have like 1 million followers and be broke, to be broke and famous. And I think like as a counterbalance to that, kind of what we see with the big $1 million followers and the better helps and the things like that, I've actually seen creators like Zara Hussein, who has 30K followers and is a VFX artist, do long-term partnerships with Adobe. I just see a lot more like premium brands partnering with smaller creators. And I think Emily Abadi is a great one. She's a fitness creator, does a fitness podcast called The Hurdle, and another 30,000 follower Instagram account. And she's partnering with Dagny Dover, another premium fashion brand. And I think a lot of that just has to do with their knowledge of their audience. And again, it doesn't have to be big, and it, I think, can pay.
I love that. Colin, I want to tie it to you as you're going through this identification phase. Like, what are you looking for in ways to identify who are your 1,000 true fans? Is there anything that you're learning or thinking about or testing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sweetest, kindest messages I've gotten in the comments and the people that engage with my content are people who relate to my story. I mean, I said I give career advice on the internet, but I'm speaking specifically to my own journey as a first-generation professional. I mean, my mother was a school teacher. My dad was a plumber. They had no corporate background, and neither did I, obviously, until I started my internships. And so I think even getting specific in terms of how I arrived in that space, I set myself apart from everyone else talking about resumes and networking and LinkedIn profiles, because I'm coming from an element of, I didn't even know what the phrase PTO meant. I never ran as far as 401k, right? And so it's like going through that journey myself and breaking that down for my following. That's when I saw the deepest engagement, when I said I'm not just giving career advice, but I'm talking to people that have the same journey I did. And I will say, as an aside to what Olivia's been talking about, I think it's the best time for a creator to start creating, because you will benefit and profit from your specificity. Brands aren't looking for people who talk about personal finance. They want to find the 14 people that only talk about 529 college savings, and they want to give them a lot of money.
I love that. Very well answered. Jayde, same idea. I mean, your main platform is LinkedIn, you would say? Yeah. What are ways that you're identifying 1,000 true fans? Is it in the comments? Is it perhaps the people that are downloading your stuff? You just hosted a webinar? Or are you looking at who signed up for that as a way to identify these folks?
100%. I think it's been interesting because from a social strategy perspective, like my first instinct is to look at the data, right? Our metrics. How many comments do I have? Who's actually sharing the content? I feel like those are always great indicators that your content actually has value. But I feel like the additional layer, of course, is like when they're even following you along your journey and the creator process. And like you were alluding to, my webinars, for example, that gave me quite the visibility into who was actually interested in the content I was creating and who wanted to learn from me, which is why I started my webinars. I remember I posted on my Instagram stories about a partnerships deck I was crafting, and I got like 20 messages within the 24 hours about people asking me, how do you do that? Jayde, show me how you do that. So I literally started webinars because my community bullied me into it. And they were like, we want you to do this. And I was like, sure, let's go. So I think in that process, I've really been able to see what other creators want to learn, and of course what they want to see from me directly.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I really think the people who choose to like engage from a comment standpoint is a really good like low-hanging fruit element. And then the element after that is perhaps you're going to launch a course. Who's downloading that? Who's signing up for the webinar? I actually met someone here who I don't think is here right now, but like she's been engaging with my content on LinkedIn for like a year and a half now, 2 years. And like I saw her and we recognized each other from like our headshots. And it was like such a cool moment that it's like, I feel like we know each other because we've just been like engaging in the comment section at the very least. But I'm like, that feels like a true fan. And, that's someone that you can scale with as you grow your business.
Yeah. And I also want to add that those courses are on Teachable. Get into it.
Teachable, that's TEACHABLE.
Really quick, I also want to jump in. I think it's, as a creator, really easy to underestimate your influence. And I'm calling Jayde out on this because we recently hosted a meetup in Atlanta for creators. And it was a really scrappy, let's see if we could get 20 people into a room. Jayde did one LinkedIn post and we had 100 people RSVP'd and had to find a bigger location. So I think it's really valuable to have those in-person connections and understand and recognize the influence. Every single person who walked into the event, we said, how'd you find out about it? They said LinkedIn. First of all, how many events have you been to where LinkedIn was the plug? And that's just a testament to like the creators who are building on LinkedIn and the way they're changing the game for creators and where you can grow on a platform.
And the brands that want to tap into it.
Incredible.
Facts. We love that. All right, so now I'm curious from a monetization standpoint, and Hannah, I want to bring it back to you. Like, how are you seeing creators with smaller audiences, like the examples you mentioned, are driving revenue? Like brand partnerships is one, but what else are they able to succeed at that perhaps those with the larger, less engaged audiences are struggling to do?
I'd say subscriptions. I think
Subscriptions.
Yeah, I'm seeing ones. The one that comes to mind immediately is Rachel Mondi. She runs the Cutting Room Floor podcast. She does Patreon-only podcast, and she does clips on Instagram and TikTok, but the full video is on Patreon and Patreon only. And she's like, you're not getting the full content unless you commit. And I think what I admire about that is she sees her audiences entering an agreement with her. It's not the ivory tower and the audience is someone that she's, spoon feeding toward. It's very much like an agreement that she has where there is mutual respect. But she's really been able to translate that to IRL and do a lot of in-person dinners and things where, that community that she's built over about 4 or 5 years, it just seems a lot of depth versus a lot of maybe bigger channels that do subscriptions as kind of an afterthought or maybe a preview for content. I think using it as a true value add where you need to be in it in order to engage is something that works. So that's what I
Love that.
I have thoughts on this too. So I think I know for a fact, a lot of people on this stage have been involved with how AI is disrupting information and knowledge-based businesses. But I think as a knowledge-based creator, and obviously I'm sharing the stage with other knowledge-based creators as well, I think you beat AI as a creator by providing something that AI can't duplicate, and that's your own story. And so even though I don't have a monopoly on career advice or marketing content, my followers want to hear that from me because I'm embedding within it my own experience and my own story. And that's something that you can't get from an LLM. And so I would say as a creator, don't be afraid to create a knowledge-based resource, because if you're doing it from a place of, this is how I arrived at this knowledge, this is what I did not know, let me tell you my story along with the knowledge in and of itself, I think you'll beat the AI, because it's not just let me learn, it's let me learn from this person as my guide or as my friend.
Love that.
Now, I want to give a quick shout out to Colin here, because Colin also recently launched the community element for his brand called For the First. And you hosted an event and you had like a really strong amount of people RSVP. You had people actually show up in real life for you. And I think that's a testament to really having an element of true fans. And every single person that showed up to that event are people to keep pushing on with. And same with you, Jayde. And something that I think about myself as I host in real life events, like who's showing up repetitively. And I think that's also another really interesting way to find those core people. Now, Olivia, bring it to you from like what you're seeing in terms of how creators with smaller audiences are monetizing. Because we've talked about, someone with like a couple thousand followers may be like, I can't do nothing. I'm still in the early stages. And you might be like, what are you talking about? Like you're creating content around like cybersecurity or whatever. Like you have a whole strong audience here. So I just want to hear a little bit more about that from you.
Yeah, I think as creators, it's easy to think that what you know isn't valuable. It's like second nature to you. But so often it is a novelty to the people who are following you, and that's why they're engaging. I think the sooner that you create the dynamic of exchange with your audience, the better. So I wouldn't wait until you have a really large audience to start monetizing. I would do it sooner rather than later. I love what Jayde is doing with her webinars, where it's like, for the people who want to see the behind the scenes, here is a low ticket webinar that you want to get access to. And then if you want the recording, you can get it here as well. So I think the sooner you start that dynamic, the sooner you learn more as well. It's like, okay, this webinar got a lot of attraction, this didn't. So let me double down over here. I think it's also access to insights that you can use to help inform the content that you create, but monetize sooner rather than later for sure.
And just to add on that, I mean, the reality of sharing what you know and doing information exchange is a form of transparency. And that's what people really want to see on social media. Be as transparent as possible. And I feel like creators are in the unique position in comparison to brands, where brands can't necessarily be as transparent as they want to be for a plethora of reasons. Creators are literally people. So you guys, us, we have a unique opportunity to show people what we know, who we are, and that is the superpower.
I love that. All amazing answers. All right, so as we approach the end here, I'm curious. There's a lot of creators who I saw here have a ton of followings, which is amazing. I've been following them for a while as well, but they might be feeling like that sense of that the struggle of monetizing like someone with a smaller creator is. And so I'm curious, what's one practical step from each of you that someone here in the audience with maybe a larger following can begin to do to start shifting to, the 1,000 true fans approach?
I think you want to figure out a way to start having smaller conversations. So for me, one of the reasons why Instagram has become such a big focus, even though I started on TikTok, was I absolutely love Instagram stories because I can have a much smaller conversation. And even if that story is only seen by 5 to 10,000 people, I can have a much deeper conversation than a video that may have much larger reach, but sometimes lower engagement. And so I would say if you have a larger following, whether that's posting different types of content where you're trying to just like talk to people instead of like teach them something, just try to have a smaller conversation. I think email is great for this. I think showing up in other people's communities. I love dropping into other viral career-focused videos and sort of holding court in the comments. Like that's something else you can do. Just try to have smaller conversations.
All right, smaller conversations. Write it down.
And this is something I suggest to both creators and brands. Literally just ask your community what they want to see. When I was working on brand side and social, I would oftentimes create these content pieces where it's like, what's something that you wish you knew right now? And that's the post for the day. And you'll have a plethora of comments really providing all this insight into what your community wants to know, what they want to see. And it may not even necessarily have to do with your brand, but if not, that's your opportunity to collaborate with someone who does work in that space so you can pull that information in. But I feel like asking your audience directly, like I found that my community across Instagram and LinkedIn, they love to yap to me. They love to offer me their opinions. I'll literally be like, yo, should I wear my ponytail today? And they'll tell me. So whatever that looks like, I feel like asking your audience directly is always a great opportunity.
I love that. Hannah, any thoughts there as well?
Yeah, I think finding something that you're passionate about that also could maybe filter out some of the low-hanging fruit, the people that aren't as engaged, because something that you're passionate about where your audience can match your energy. I think what you put out there is often what you'll get back. And example I like to think of is Elise Myers. She went viral for her Taco Bell story and then started shifting into mental health. And she really developed a really strong fan base through that. So she found something that was kind of, polarizing. It doesn't exactly hit with every person, but she found her audience that way. And I think that's a great way to find your true fans.
Amazing. Olivia.
Yeah, I think the through line between everything all of the panelists have said is, one, don't assume. Ask your audience, but I also think it's got to intersect with what you're passionate about. You can't just do it just because they're telling you to. You have to wake up and make the content and do the thing. So it's where can you find that intersection point?
We love it. Don't assume. You know what assuming does? Makes an ass out of you and me. There you go. Big takeaway. All right, we're going to do one question to take us home from each of you. This is a fun one I was thinking about. if you could only keep 100 of your current followers or community members, tomorrow morning you wake up, you can only keep 100, but they'd be completely devoted to your work forever. Would you take that deal? And what would you do differently if that were your reality?
No deal, Howie.
No deal? Well, Colin's got to answer.
I don't know if 100, you're missing a couple zeros there, but if I woke up with 100 followers, I'd ask, yeah, why are y'all still here? You know? Because clearly something kept them around. And so whatever that would be the basis of how I would get back to hopefully more than 100 followers.
Good answer. Jayde, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would want them to free themselves from the shackle of my audience. I think, like, I really want the people that follow me to be there because they want to be and not feel like they have to be. So that means even as I'm like growing as a creator, if what I'm providing them no longer is valuable, if they're growing beyond me, I'm okay with that. Because my goal is just here to inspire them and empower them to kind of create their own journey in this space. So, yeah.
All right, amazing. Any final thoughts on that? It's all right.
Hannah's pure no deal. I mean, I think at the end of the day, if those 100 people are the people that are still with you, then you're doing something right for those people, and figure out what that looks like. I think, like I said, you can start monetizing or engaging from 100 people alone, right? Whether that's doing an event with those people or hosting a webinar for those people, like those 100 people still have value, and what you can understand about why they're still there, why they're still showing up is information that you can use to grow and scale.
Unreal. And where can everybody follow you? We're at the end of our panel. Colin, we'll go down the line.
I am at career Colin on Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok, or you can just ask me and I'll look it up. I'll look it up on my phone.
Hannah.
thepublishedpress.com. Subscribe.
All right.
Jayde Powell on LinkedIn and Instagram, or you can subscribe to my newsletter at creatorpalooza.com.
And I am Olivia Owens on LinkedIn. We're at Teachable on all platforms. Check us out. Thanks for joining.
Amazing. Let's give a big round of applause for our panel. Folks, we're here through the remainder of the night, and we have a band that's coming on soon. I'm not performing in it. I've had lots of requests. Maybe we'll do karaoke. But stick around, enjoy yourselves. We got a bar, we got food, and thank you for being here.